guys, it's Claire. Welcome back. Today I wanted to bring you an extra special book haul, which is my birthday book haul. I celebrated my birthday this past weekend. I'm now 25 years old and, you know, I'm at peace with it, guys. I did get some really wonderful books from friends and family, so I thought I would give you guys a little peek. So let's get started. The first book I got was Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. So I got this from one of my oldest friends. I knew of this book because I have heard of the musical that was adapted from this graphic novel and won a bunch of Tony Awards and was a huge hit. So I've heard a lot of great things about the play, and I assume that the graphic novel is about kind of the same topics, which is about Alison Bechdel and her relationship with her father, who is gay, and Alison Bechdel is also gay. So I think it deals with some of those themes and just their relationship in general. Then my little brother sent me a copy of Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl. So I read Wild a couple of years ago and really loved it, and I've read some of Cheryl Strayed's Dear Sugar advice columns that she used to write for the Rumpus. They decided to compile some of the best of the Dear Sugar advice columns into this book. I just think Cheryl Strayed is wonderful and writes in a really accessible way and is incredibly thoughtful and empathetic. I think this will be a nice kind of read, a column before bed, kind of savor it slowly type book. And then some of my best friends from college got me a gift card to Dog-Eared Books, which is a bookstore in the Mission in San Francisco. And they have kind of this cool mix of new books and then just this massive comprehensive section of really high quality used books. I got 3 books and I still have half of my gift card left. The first book I got was O Pioneers by Willa Cather. This book was written in 1913 and it's the first book in Willa Cather's sort of Great Plains trilogy that also consists of The Song of the Lark and My Antonia. I read My Antonia in college for a class on the American novel and I really loved it. Willa Cather is from Nebraska and writes about Nebraska in these books, so they're very much frontier books that just have very vivid and moving scenes of the Nebraska frontier and sort of the Midwest. Next, I picked up The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. So this is Tim O'Brien's very famous collection of short stories about the Vietnam War. Tim O'Brien served in the Vietnam War, and I think it's really easy to forget that this is technically a book of fiction because when you read it, it feels so real. And I've read parts of it. I haven't read all of this. My favorite story in this collection is one of my favorite pieces of literature just in general, and it's called How to Tell a True War Story, and it kind of talks about authenticity and factual truth in fiction and why that doesn't matter as much as emotional truth or experiential truth. And I want to do a full video on that topic and that story in particular because it is just one of the most sublime things. The last book I picked up at Dog-Eared Books was, just in time for Victo Burr, Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. So I haven't read anything by Elizabeth Gaskell. I'm working on my Victober TBR, which I'll post soon, but I wanted to read North and South because I've had that on my shelf for a really long time, but watching Kate Howe's videos and Katie at Books and Things videos, they both really rave about Wives and Daughters. I don't know, maybe I'll read this one before I read North and South. It's a little bit longer than North and South, but I definitely want to get to it soon. And lastly, my parents sent me some wonderful books, which I asked for, so I kind of knew that they were coming. One of those is Jude the Obscure. So I read Tess of the D'Urbervilles in high school, and I read Far from the Madding Crowd a year and a half ago, and I remember really loving Tess, and I really loved Far from the Madding Crowd. So I was excited to get to Jude the Obscure because I've heard it's one of his best works, and actually the controversy surrounding this book when it came out caused Thomas Hardy to give up writing novels, and he just wrote poetry for the rest of his life. Again, a Victorian novel that I'm excited to get into soon. And then since moving to California and spending some time hiking a little bit in California this summer, I got interested in going and reading some of the writings of John Muir, who is so famous for having loved and written about and explored the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. So my parents got me this book, which is Muir Nature Writings. So I was interested in my first summer in the Sierra and the mountains of California, which this book includes. It also includes the story of my boyhood and youth, Stickeen, and then just some general essays. So it's nice to have all of this Muir stuff in one spot, and although it doesn't look like it, this book is almost 900 pages long. I don't think I'll read the whole thing anytime soon, but I'm really excited to dive into the mountains of California and my first summer in the Sierra. And next up is History by Elsa Morante. This is another big brick of a book. I am a huge fan of Elena Ferrante, and Elsa Morante apparently was a huge influence on her as a writer and was also some of the inspiration behind her choice of Elena Ferrante as a pen name. It sounds somewhat similar to Elsa Morante, Elena Ferrante. She's a bit older than Elena Ferrante. She was born in 1912, and so this book was published in the 1970s and deals with people living in Italy during World War II and covers kind of the lives of ordinary people. It's kind of, I think, supposed to be this big monumental work that is her most famous and most controversial. And lastly, my parents got me this big coffee table book, Ancient Trees, Portraits of Time by Beth Moon. I love trees. My dad really loves trees and is really good at kind of just identifying trees by leaves and bark and stuff. So if I'm ever away from home and send him a picture of a leaf, he can usually tell me what kind of tree it is. And obviously this book isn't, you know, a book that'll help you identify trees, but it does have kind of pictures and captions about some of the ancient trees from different continents and countries around the world. This is just kind of a beautiful, nice book to have around. So those are the books that I got for my birthday. Sorry this video was kind of casual. I usually do a little more prep work and I didn't for this video, and so I feel like it was kind of rambling and didn't have a lot of useful information about any of these books besides the fact that I now own them and hopefully I'm gonna read them soon. But if you've read any of those books or have thoughts about them, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time. Thanks guys, bye.